DeepSeek is a Chinese AI lab that is sending shockwaves through Silicon Valley because it's had some breakthroughs that are challenging some fundamental assumptions about AI development. So, DeepSeek has actually created AI models that rival or surpass top US based or created systems while spending a fraction of the time and money on these models and releasing them in an open fashion so others can use and build on them. So, one of the company's models, DeepSeek V3, was built using only about, they claim, 2,000 specialized NVIDIA chips, which is compared to 16,000 or more chips that major US companies are using. Even more striking is the cost. DeepSeek claims it spent just $6 million on computing power to train the model. And the model they say is comparable to something like GPT 4.0. So it challenges the closed models, cost only $6 million to train, which is literally 1/10 of what someone like Meta invested in their latest AI technology. And the system can match the leading chatbots out there, apparently, in answering questions, solving logic problems, writing code. I mentioned it's open, so developers can freely access and build on it. And as a result, Paul, like you mentioned, DeepSeek recently overtook ChatGPT to become the top rated free application in the App Store in the US. Now, this also happened because or despite of US government restrictions on sending advanced AI chips to China. So rather than hindering progress, these constraints may have forced Chinese engineers to develop more efficient approaches. Now, on the heels of DeepSeek V3, DeepSeek also released R1, which is an open source competitor to OpenAI's advanced reasoning models, specifically O1 and then eventually O3, which is coming out. Now, R1 actually costs like 90% less to use than O1. And this is kind of further baffling everybody as to how this company is able to create such powerful AI at such a low cost. So it's raising a bunch of uncomfortable questions, which is why you're hearing about it a lot. So if what they say is true, and that's a big if we'll dive into, that really calls into question how much money is required to actually build AI, how many advanced chips are required to build advanced AI systems, have all these big labs just lit money on fire and way over engineered this when there's an easier way. And then also the emergence is having people worried about China's AI capabilities. Former Google CEO Eric Schmidt previously estimated China was 2 to 3 years behind the US in AI development, but now acknowledges they have caught up. So, Paul, a bunch of different angles here, but let's first talk about what DeepSeek says they have achieved. How credible are these claims? How likely is it that they were actually able to achieve this level of performance this fast for this cheap?
I have no idea. I mean, so I've been trying to track this as closely as possible, look at all the different angles, listen to the different players involved. There are some who think they just innovated that the U.S. reducing the amount of chips they're allowed to have just drove innovation, and they found out they built more efficient algorithms to do this training more efficiently. And there are some who are very strongly opinionated that they're lying and there's no way they actually trained it this efficiently. And they probably have way more illegal NVIDIA chips than they're saying they have. And they're never going to disclose that they do because that's illegal. And they are certainly a fair amount of people who think they probably stole the data and illegally trained the models on US model outputs. Like, obviously we have no idea, like we have no inside knowledge on this. There are lots of opinions flying around. Whatever the truth ends up being, there is a lot of concern in Silicon Valley at the moment and in the US stock market that they may have actually just found more efficient ways to do this. I think there's probably little debate that they leveraged US innovation to do this. That is pretty much guaranteed. Shortcut their path to success by leveraging what the US had done. Um, but throughout the weekend, the app kept climbing the app store, which is hilarious. Like, I don't even know, like, people who, like, what would you know to do with this? Like, I don't know how it climbed. Like, and even that, there was some question about whether it was like bots and just paid things that was getting it to the top. And then there was questions about, is this like a psych op by the
Mm.
Chinese government to actually like just mess with the US stock market? I don't know. It gets really wild, really deep. But we referenced on 132 at start, and we referenced at the beginning here. Nvidia's stock is like crashing this
Yeah.
morning as a result of this. The reason is Nvidia's value is based on the belief that we are going to keep building massive data centers filled with millions of Nvidia chips to not only train more powerful, generally capable models, but to run the inference on these models when all of us consumers use AI apps and devices. So NVIDIA's entire future, at least in the stock market, is based on this belief that we're going to keep building, we're going to keep needing millions of chips. Well, this puts into question, do we really need all these data centers and infrastructure that we just got a $500 billion for Stargate and we got trillions more coming? Like, is that all gonna be necessary?
Hmm.
So, that's why NVIDIA's stock sort of, like, just dropped because Wall Street doesn't like uncertainty, and this is very uncertain, like, there's way more questions than answers. Um, there are risks, there's massive risks here, so, like, one, these models, if you ask them about, things related to like democracy or Tiananmen Square, things like that, like they just won't answer. Like they're obviously in some ways controlled by they're from a company within China, so they have to adhere to the policies of the government. The data is stored on Chinese servers, I believe. Like that, I saw something last night about like where is this data going? It's you're sending personal data, whatever you put in, whatever the inputs and outputs are of the model, like you're sending that through the app if you're using the app. Um, but, again, like there's differing opinions. So we had Satya at Davos said to see the DeepSeek new model, it's super impressive in terms of both how they have really effectively done an open source model that does this inference time compute and is super compute efficient. We should take the developments out of China very, very seriously. But then Satya also tweeted, I mean, I mispronounced this. Jevons paradox strikes again. So like this, so the idea that um, because something became cheap that we aren't going to need like the data centers. So his exact tweet was Jevons paradox strikes again. As AI gets more efficient and accessible through things like DeepSeek, we will see its use skyrocket, turning it into a commodity we just can't get enough of. So what he's saying is Nvidia stock should actually be going up. Is the
Mm.
basic like interpretation here that because something was made cheaper, that there actually will be an increasing demand of it. So Wikipedia, because it's the quickest thing I can get. In economics, the Jevons paradox or Jevons effect occurs when technological progress increases the efficiency with which a resource is used, reducing the amount necessary for any one use, but the falling cost of use induces increases in demand enough that the resource is use is increased rather than reduced, meaning we're going to need more data centers. We're going to need more NVIDIA chips. So the stock market is making the assumption, oh, we won't need as many NVIDIA chips or data centers. What Satya is saying is, no, that's not the case. This is a
Mm.
Jevons paradox. Like it'll actually increase. We'll need more as we go. Um, and then just like to drill home the significance of this, there's a information article that said Meta scrambles after Chinese AI equals its own upending Silicon Valley. And so I'm just going to read a couple of quick excerpts here because I think this gives the mentality of, and again, this is like 5 days old. That just happened, like Thursday or whatever.
Right.
That's all like, so it said leaders, including AI infrastructure director Matthew Oldman, have told numerous colleagues they are concerned that the next version of Meta's flagship AI Llama won't perform as well as DeepSeek. Now, this is why I was kind of surprised Meta's stock was up today. Um, this month, Hangzhou-based high flyer capital management upped the ante by releasing another version of DeepSeek that you had mentioned. App developers can freely download DeepSeek or buy access to it through cloud-based APIs. Researchers at OpenAI, Meta, and other top developers have been scrutinizing the DeepSeek model to see what they could learn from it, including how it manages to run more cheaply and efficiently than some American-made models. Noam Brown, who we've talked about many times on the show, he tweeted, DeepSeek shows you can get very powerful AI models with relatively little compute. The article goes on to say even more surprising than the quality of DeepSeek's results was high flyers claim that developing it cost a fraction of the amount American competitors spent on developing similar models, a claim that various researchers have met with skepticism. Underscoring the efficiency of its models, High Flyer also sells a cloud hosted version that is 17 to 27 times cheaper than OpenAI's comparable offerings.
Mm.
The arrival of DeepSeek is particularly galling to researchers at Meta because, like Llama, it is freely available for other developers to use with publicly accessible settings that control the model's behavior, a concept known as open weights. So, this is really important because, as we talked about in the podcast last year, Zuckerberg's play was to undercut the market by making a free open source model. Well, he just got undercut by a Chinese company with a model that's better, based on this article, with than what Meta hasn't even released yet. So, like, their next model, there's concerns at Meta that this thing is not only more efficient, it's actually better than what they were going to release.
Yeah.
So the article says that they have researchers at leading American companies probably impressed with the results. Um, Highflyer may have taken some shortcuts to mimic already released models, including training its own models on answers from O1 and Llama. And then they said that managers and engineers from Meta, AI group and infrastructure team have started 4 war rooms to learn how DeepSeek works. 2 are mobilized to trying to understand how they lowered the cost of training and running DeepSeek. Meta wants to apply whatever they can learn. And then they said managers and engineers from Meta have started. Okay, and then there was there was 2 other war rooms dedicated to different elements of DeepSeek. So
Wow.
this is real. Like again, they don't know yet if they're being truthful in their research and what they're saying, and maybe there are some like larger issues at play here. But it seems like there's enough to this that it has AI research labs scrambling to figure out what is going on. And then you throw in the fact that it all of a sudden is number one in the app store, and now consumers are seeing and using this thing. It's like it took the world by storm. It's really crazy.
And it seems like one way or another, whether they have in fact found some breakthroughs to do this or are hiding something, there's a lot of money and interest in figuring that out because all of the investors, all the business models of these major players seem to be under threat from this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do the math, but I mean, Nvidia is a $3 trillion company. If they lost 14% market or value this morning, I mean, we're talking about a 400 to $500 billion market cap swing in 2 hours. Like,
Right. Right.
it's a it's a massive economic impact.
So you
So
don't think there's some corporate espionage about to happen around
yeah,
this?
that's 100%. So even if there wasn't something more nefarious at work here, you just showed how to disrupt the US economy
Mhm.
in 3 days. Like, in in a very hands-off, "We had nothing to do with this" kinda way. So even if it didn't come from that, you may now see future copycat things done where because what we and it may be what we saw with TikTok is
Yeah.
US consumers don't care if it's from China. Like, they don't care if their private data is going to China or it's owned by some a holding company in China. They just want convenience and personalization. They want that experience. So if an app from China offers value and use, like, US consumers have shown time and again, they're gonna use it regardless.